If you were to define Danny Higginbotham in one word, you'd choose honest. In his years at Stoke, he was the archetypal honest pro, encapsulating everything that was great about the Pulis years. In 2 spells, Higgy demonstrated all the qualities fans demand of Stoke City players: passion, commitment, desire and honesty. And of course, a few vital goals helped cement his place as a Potter's hero. Danny's honesty doesn't just extend to his performances on the pitch. Over the course of the interview you're about to hear, you'll find he is wonderfully honest about his career and football in general. From his views on VAR to the cruciate injury that unfortunately cut short his Stoke career. That's why, when you hear him talk about the agony and the ecstasy of playing for Stoke, you know he's not exaggerating. Dave went to leafy Cheshire to catch up with him. We hope you have as much fun listening to this chat as we did recording it.
How did your first move to Stoke happen?
I was at Southampton at the time, and a good friend of mine, one of my best friends actually, godfather to children, he'd been at Derby with me years ago. He was like the physio, and then he had joined Stoke as probably the fitness coach. And I was I was at Southampton at the time. I had 2 years left, going into my final year, and they offered me a new contract, Southampton, but they were trying to be a bit clever with it. We'd been relegated from the Premier League the year before, and then Tony gave me a call out of the blue, and like what he had to say. I had a little bit of a falling out with the people at Southampton. I was put on the transfer list, and they agreed a fee with Southampton. I went down there, spoke to Tony, and he sort of sold the club to me really straight away. Told me about what he was wanting to do, the players he was wanting to bring in, and he said that I'd be the first of a few that would be coming in to try and make a big difference.
So when we all have this image of Tony Pulis as probably shouts a lot, probably old school kind of manager. Is he like that from day one? Is he like the image of him barking orders?
I found him a very, very good man manager. He was known for obviously bringing players that sort of had a point to prove, but that he felt could go to the next level again with a bit of man management, and he was fantastic with that. He especially in the early years as well. My 1 year when I was there in the first few years in the Premier League, he'd consult you about players that he was thinking of bringing in and things like that, because it was always important to him that he brought the right players into the dressing room. I remember the day that I joined, because obviously I was with Ricardo at Southampton, and we got on really well. And he asked me about him. He said, Ricardo or Dexter Blackstock. And Ricardo wasn't playing at Southampton for some reason, which was a bit beyond me. So he went on loan to Ipswich and did unbelievably well. Then he came back to Southampton and finished the season great. And I just said straight away Ricardo, because everybody saw what he went on to do.
So that was down to you, was it?
City. Well, I'm not saying, part of it, I suppose, but so he came, I think, a few months after us, and he ended up a Stoke City legend,
cheers for that.
and rightly so, so he took advice from players and things like that, and he would give players a kick up the backside when it was needed. But the thing was with Tony, a lot of time, I think he knew the players, he knew what made them tick. He knew lads that he could kick up the backside, lads he could leave alone, and he had a very good way of going about things, so everybody got the message. And he created a fantastic dressing room. Everybody, the togetherness within that dressing room was immense, and that was one of the. All right, we had good players as well, but the reason I think we had the success, especially in the early years in the Premier League, was to do with the dressing room that we had and the togetherness that we had.
So, in your first season at Stoke, we kind of just missed out on the playoffs, and did you get the sense that we were building towards something there?
Yeah, I did. I remember when I first joined, like I say, he was telling me about all these players you were going to sign, and nothing happened. And I was obviously, you listen to the manager and you trust him and everything he said, but I wasn't seeing any players coming in. And then I think the day we would play in Preston at home, I think we drew one of them. Lee Hendry signed, and I think that week we signed a load of players. And the first game when I believe that Tony had his team together was Leeds United away, and I think we beat them 4-0. And we went on an incredible run. I think we went 7.5 games without conceding a goal, win after win. And if the season had another 3 games to go, we'd have been in the playoffs, and I have no question about it, we'd have won the playoffs, because by that time we were the best team in the league. We were beating everybody, the togetherness within the team, the quality of the players that we had. We were beating teams at the top of the league quite comfortably. It's just that we left the run so late, and like I say, in my opinion, if we'd have got into the playoffs that season, we would have won the playoffs.
One of the players I thought was kind of he's kind of underrated by Stoke fans now, but when he initially joined with Salif Jow in that team, he was massive.
He was brilliant. The way that Tony liked to play, defensively, Tony's always been very strong, and a key element of that was the defensive midfielder. And Salif did the job that was very unspectacular.
Yeah.
So it wasn't pleasing on the eye, but was appreciated by his teammates. And everybody had a set role that they had in the team, and I think the beauty of it was whenever there was changes that had to be made, players would come in and do themselves justice, be part of a team that was being successful and winning, because the manager drilled it into us how important it was, how it was set up, because we did so much work on it. Every player that came in knew what was expected of them and knew the position in the team as well.
Yeah. So you obviously left to have a go at the Premier League essentially when you went to Sunderland. So when you came back, were there any doubts about coming back to Stoke?
No, not at all. For me, being at Stoke and then having had a really good season and been made captain, it was a tough decision, but for me at the end of the day I wanted to get back to the Premier League. To go back to the Premier League, to work under Roy Keane, those were the two real big attractions for me. I enjoyed my time at Sunderland, and I was always keeping an eye on the Stoke results, how they were getting on and things like that, because I'd still had a lot of very good friends as teammates, and obviously the management and everybody behind the scenes there. So when the opportunity came up, I sort of had an inkling that it was coming along, and then I think Stoke decided to make the move on the final day, the transfer window. And people always say, it's like, I used to think it was a really cheesy thing when people say, you have a place where you belong, a club where you belong, because I never really believed that. But then at Stoke, I can honestly say that it was a perfect fit for me, and to come back and to be welcomed back in the team in the Premier League was brilliant. And we had great seasons. The season obviously in the Championship before the lads then went and got promoted, and the first few seasons in the Premier League were the best times of my football career. I loved every single minute of it.
You mentioned Roy Keane there. He's another manager with a bit of a tough guy reputation. Is he much different to Tony Pulis in his approach?
All the managers that I've had have been different. Roy was very different in the way he approached things. He would work out. For me, I look at managers, and the good managers are the ones that get a reaction out of you. And Roy would do that. There was sometimes that he'd speak to you, and it was like he'd sort of be trying to get you a response from you when you're out on the pitch. And I look back at his time at Sunderland. He took them when they were bottom of the Championship, the year when I was with Stoke, and they won the league comfortably, and we remained in the Premier League comfortably. And sometimes I think in particular that his job is the job that he did at Sunderland, for me, was so underplayed. I thought he had what he did was magnificent at Sunderland, to get them back into the Premier League and to get them stable in the Premier League again. And I think some people are quick to say that to look at his time in management, but for me, what he did at Sunderland was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. So obviously in our first season up, I think we lost at Bolton in the opening day of the season, and one bookie paid out on us going down. Why were we able to stay up that season? Because I think we had good players, probably underrated by a lot of people. But what was it about Stoke? Either the dressing room, the fans, the atmosphere around the club?
I think it was everything. You put everything together. I think, if I remember right, I think we only won 2 away games that season. I think it was West Brom, which was a place, no matter how bad we play, you could go there and win. And Hull towards the end of the season, we had some really battling draws at Liverpool and a couple of other places. But for me, it was a home form. The home form was incredible. We were a team that believed it didn't matter who came to our place. If they were going to get the 3 points from us, it was going to be very tough. Chelsea came and did it very well. Manchester United did it and won the game in the last minute. Sir Alex Ferguson said that was probably the defining moment of their season. So I'd say the same about any team, any newly promoted teams. It's all about your home form. We believed that when we went out onto the pitch at home, we were a match for anybody, and used to go out for the warm-up, and then when we were in the tunnel preparing to come out and you heard the noise outside, to then walk, it constantly made my hair stand on end for years, just because the atmosphere was incredible. And you could physically see opposition players sinking. They just didn't want to be there. And I believe at times before the game even started, we'd won the game, and we weren't a good team to play against. We always used to say in the dressing room afterwards, hate to play against us because it was just horrible. It was second balls, it was long throws, you knew it was going to be a scrap. And we were a team that we had a strength, whether it be set pieces, the way we were very combative, and we outfought a lot of teams at home, and that for me was the key to it. Our home form, togetherness within the dressing room, once again, it goes so far, that does, and we finished very, very comfortably. It was unbelievable.
Are there any games from that season that kind of stand out to you as being like perhaps season-defining games, or games you thought, right, we've really got a chance of staying up now?
There was games earlier on in the season which really stood out. For me, the one was when Arsenal came, and I think we beat them 2-0 or 2-1. Yeah, we thoroughly deserved it. I think the signings of James Beattie and Matthew Etherington in January got us over the line, because that gave us a different dynamic. Defensively we were strong, we could get a few goals, but with Beats, he worked incredibly well with his centre forward partner, whether it was Dave Kitson, whether it was Ricardo Fuller, Mamadou Sidibe, and Matty Etherington. For me, how he didn't get an England cap when he was playing at Stoke, because for me, I didn't. I had the pleasure of playing left back behind him, and I didn't see many, if any, natural, better English left wingers at the time. And like I say, I've said it openly before, how he didn't get an England cap was beyond me. So those were two massive players. And then I think there's certain games you look at, home games. I think Blackburn, was it Blackburn that season? I think at home, all around about the same time as Blackburn. I think West Brom as well.
Yeah.
I think we got 2 wins in a row there. And I think when we probably got to, I don't know, there was a sense that regardless of what other people thought about us, we genuinely believed that we'd stay up. What Tony did, he created the siege mentality. So all the times that people call us rugby teams, all the times that certain managers would say things about us, people thought, that's got to work. We loved it.
Yeah.
Because the more we believed that people didn't want us in the Premier League, or the more that we believed that people looked at our style of play and said it's not right, you shouldn't be playing that football. It was pure football snobbery. We loved it.
Yeah.
We just said, okay, well, you know what, you play your fancy games, and when you come to our place, contrasting styles will go up against each other, and let's see who wins. And more often than not, like I say, apart from some of the big teams, we beat the majority of teams at home, which was a massive thing for us.
Arsene Wenger helped us out then a fair bit, didn't he?
Oh, he did. At the end of the day, I think that Arsene Wenger, I've got all the respect in the world for him. There's no doubt about it. What he's done at Arsenal has been absolutely incredible. He came over here, and I think he changed football in England. His methods, the way that he went about things. But in the early years in the Premier League, he was outspoken about us. There's no doubt about it. But Sir Alex Ferguson came and said, "It is what it is. You have to deal with it." Rafa Benitez at the time when he came said exactly the same thing. The Chelsea managers, all your managers go, you've got to deal with it. That was our strength. If we'd have gone out at the Brit or anywhere and tried to play against Arsenal the way that they play, or Manchester United the way they play, or your Chelsea's, we'd have been beaten after 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we had to find something that we were strong at, that could get us through it. But when we played against the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United in particular, in the first couple of years at home, the first year in particular, they would battle us. And when they battled us and won that battle, then their football would just take over, and that was why they were so good, them two teams.
You obviously mentioned Ricardo Fuller there. So you obviously played with a lot of top players when you were at Stoke. Are there any others apart from Rick that really stand out for you as like being massively important to us?
I'd say Abdullah. His first year, I don't think there's many better centre backs in the Premier League. That he was just Mr. Horizontal.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. Never flustered. Nothing. He was brilliant. He was incredible. And like I say, I don't think there was many better than him in the Premier League that first year. He was absolutely immense. I think everybody played the part, but in different ways. Obviously, Liam Lawrence as well. His delivery is fantastic. You had him one side, Matty Etherington on the other, Rory Delap. Andy Griffin, Ryan Shaw. For me, the beauty of that team was that, okay, you had a player like Ricardo Fuller that could create something from nothing. But more often than not, it was a collective. So it wasn't as though there was one particular standout player. It was a collective of why the team was able to play so well together. It wasn't, we didn't rely on individuals. A few people scored goals, and we all defended as a unit.
Yeah. Obviously, around this time, Ryan Shawcross, I think, was about 19, 20, just coming into the side. I think it was only his second professional season was in the Premier League. Are you able to tell, as a more experienced player, like, this guy's going to have a future? And did you notice him kind of develop throughout your years?
He developed without question. For me, I remember meeting him the first time, it was just before I left to go to Sunderland. I think his debut was actually my last league game. We went to Cardiff and won
Cardiff,
1-0,
yeah.
and he scored. And the thing that struck me about Ryan straight away, and listen, you can have all the ability in the world, but what you've got to be able to do is want to learn, you've got to want to improve, and you've got to want to listen. And one thing Ryan did, he would always take advice from the senior players. You know, sometimes, like as I was getting a little bit older, you'd speak to some of the young lads and you could see they were listening, but it was going in one ear and out the other. With Ryan, you spoke to him and he listened and he took it all on board, and that's very much his upbringing at the club where he was brought up at Manchester United. That's how it was. You know, if a senior player had something to say, you listened, and Ryan's done that, and now he's gone on to have and still be having an exceptional career. And you know, full credit to himself. He took the chance. You know, left Manchester United. A lot of people outstay the welcome at a club like Manchester United, but he didn't. You know, he came at the right time, and he developed massively under Tony Pulis as well. I'm sure that Ryan will admit that. And you know, first and foremost, it's Ryan. The reason Ryan's been so successful and done so well is down to him. But what I think he did, I think he listened to the senior professionals and the management to try to improve all the time, and he'd stay extra and do things afterwards. There's no doubt he had the quality, but a lot of players had the quality, but it's then taken on to the next level, and he's done that. And you know, for all the plaudits that he gets, he deserves them fully.
You mentioned Ricardo Fuller as well, like capable of just producing just something out of nothing, but also difficult character, like West Ham away in particular. You know, you throw something like in that. How was he in the dressing room with
Brilliant. Actually, I've known Ricardo for years. I was with him at Southampton for a number of years, and we had a good relationship. Me and Ricardo, we got on really well, and I was one of maybe 2 or 3 people in the dressing room that could probably calm him down a little bit if he got a little bit angry. Not because of any particular reason, just because, you know, he respected you and you just go, okay Danny, and things like that. But at times you wanted him to be angry, and I think when he first come to Stoke there was anger there, but sometimes it would overreach on the pitch, because especially when we were playing the Championship, defenders couldn't handle him. So the only way that they could handle him was to stamp on him, and he reacted sometimes, and you know, sometimes got sent off. But then I think as he got more experienced as well, I think he realised that he took it as a compliment, and the more he got stood on, the more he got beaten, the best came out of him. You know, for me, Ricardo was a player that would turn a 0-0 scrap into a 1-0 scrap was something special. And one of my favourite games to play was West Ham away, and he was on the bench and he came on and he scored a goal that only Ricardo could score. It was, if one of your top players had scored that, you know, your Manchester United, your Real Madrid, the Barcelona, it would have been talked about for weeks. It was individual brilliance against top class defenders, and that for me, you know, if someone said sum Ricardo up as a player, I'd just show that just constantly show that, because that was Ricardo. He does something you like, why did that just happen? And he just walks away as, oh yeah, it's a normal thing for him to do. So that's what Ricardo gave us, and in the dressing room he was unbelievable. There was not a person in the dressing room that you couldn't have a laugh with. It was one and all in, and for me it was something very special, and Ricardo was a huge part of that. And you know, I knew what his character was. I knew he was a fantastic player, and like when I said to Tony about signing him, because I knew, in my eyes, he was a fantastic character. He'd have a little moan and everything, but you know, a lot of players do. But when it comes to the pitch, what he could do, like you say, he turned a lot of 0-0s for us into 1-0s, and he goes down as a Stoke City legend, and in my mind, rightly so as well, because I think he's been one of Stoke's best players in recent eras.
Absolutely, yeah. Moving ahead then to the I think it was the 3rd season in the Premier League, FA Cup quarter-final against West Ham.
Yeah.
How big a turning point was that, just in our season as a whole?
Yeah, it was massive. I have a real problem now when we're seeing it in January now. A lot of teams rest players. January time when they're in the cup, and it's like, right, we want to go out of the cup and we want to concentrate on the league because they're down the bottom. I think it should be the other way around. Why do you want to just have to concentrate on the league when you know you're in a scrap week after week after week? And it's like, right, we need to win this week, or the gap's getting bigger between us and being safe. So why do you constantly want to be in that position? Why not be in that position where you go, okay, you know what, we're having a good cup run. We've got this in the league, and we know we've got to deal with that. We know we've got to play better, but I'll tell you what, next week we're in the quarterfinals against X, Y and Z. And it gives everybody a little bit of an uplift. And for me, if you look from that quarter-final game, we won that game. If you look on the run that we then went on, the best team performance, I believe, probably one of the best team performances I was involved in with Stoke, was the week after. Was it the week? I think it might have been the week after the West Ham game, or the next game after the West Ham game was Newcastle at home when we beat them 4-0.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to be involved in that team. You know, everybody was at the top of the game because everybody had been galvanised because of what we'd just done in the FA Cup. Everybody knew the semi-final was coming. There was a chance to go and play at Wembley and then to go and play at the cup final. So for me, I don't believe in resting players. I really don't, especially when you're in a scrap, because it's tough when you're in a relegation scrap week after week. So, you know, week after week, if you've then got that little bit, I tell you what, we've got these next few games, but then afterwards we've got a game that can get us to Wembley. Why not look at that, because it can really pick your season up, and it's what it did for us that season.
You scored a decent free kick in that Newcastle game as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
I think probably your only two of the season were just straight after each other.
I think, was it? Yeah, maybe that season. I don't know whether that was. I don't know. Do you know what? I don't know whether it was that the same season as Blackburn. I think of Bolton as well.
Right.
Possibly. I'm not too sure. But yeah, no, it was a really good time. It's strange. It was like, that was, people have asked me before. That was like a part of, you know, you get examples of like life, you know, and for me it was, you know, my second youngest was born, then the week after that scored the winner in the quarterfinals, week after that scored that goal against Newcastle. I mean, I had an international break, and then, you know, I had the lowest point of my football career, you know, doing my cruciate in the last minute against Chelsea. So that's football. But I look back and I was like, it was the most disappointing time of my career. But, you know, if that's the biggest disappointment that you can have in your career, then, you know, you consider yourself quite fortunate. And okay, yeah, you missed, you know, the semi-finals and the final, but it is what it is. And, you know, it's something that was disappointing at the time, but when you put it into context and everything, it is what it is, and you don't worry too much about it.
The quarter-final itself, I think we'd just been beaten by West Ham
3-0 away, I think.
Yeah.
Throw 3-1, yeah.
The game before, and there was just a massive tension all around the ground, certainly on the fans' behalf anyway. And obviously Etherington has a penalty saved, and
that's right, yeah.
And you think like, oh God, are we cursed? Or, you know,
yeah.
How do you manage the sort of the situation? How do you manage do you get nervous even?
I think if the week before when we got beat by West Ham, I wasn't playing at the time. I'd gone for a patch where I wasn't playing, and like you say, my second youngest had just been born. So I said to the manager at the time, I said, if I'm not playing, you know, is it possible for me to stay behind to help out? And he was like, yeah, no problem, but just make sure you're ready for Monday. So I was like, fine, no problem. And obviously they got beat, and then the big thing for us, like I say, our away form was patchy, even 2 or 3 years into the Premier League. So it was an away performance. The home game's completely different, because we're like, right, we're playing at home, this is our pitch now. If anyone's going to come here and get anything from us, they're going to have to put on a good performance. That game against West Ham, losing that game, that dragged us a bit closer to the relegation scrap, and it was a pivotal game for us because we went into it, I think we took the lead, I think Hoofy gave us a lead, and then they equalised, and it was pretty much end to end. And, you know, I'm just trying to think now, I think initially the free kick that was given was 10 yards further away.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling Jermaine might have taken it, and Scotty Parker maybe handballed it. So then it was taken closer, and I would always take the ones that were closer. And obviously, you know, they scored the goal and everything, but then at the end of the game, I think it was something that the lads were absolutely buzzing, because now we're at Wembley, and it wasn't just all about a relegation fight now, and we took that into the games coming up. Like I say, went to Newcastle, I think, played Wolves. I think there was a lot of other games where you looked at and went, you know, we were on an unbelievable run. I don't think, you know, you might have to look at it, but I don't think the lads got beaten from the quarterfinals to the semi-finals.
No, I don't
think they lost a game. And that's what I'm saying, it breeds confidence. Everybody then is like, okay, we all want to be playing at Wembley. There's going to be places up for grabs, so, you know, can we grab it? And that's what I was thinking. Fair play to him. It was an unbelievable finish to the season.
Can you remember the moment of hitting the free kick?
Yeah, but it was really slow motion, because I always, what I used to do, we always used to get Ryan and Hoofy, they always used to get in the wall, and I always used to say to them, listen, stand in the wall, stand in an area in front of the goalkeeper, because all I'm going to do, I'm going to hit it at you. I'm going to hit at you, and all I want you to do is move their players. And to be fair, I think it was more Hoofy. Hoofy actually, I think, grabbed Scotty Parker and dragged him to the side. And the thing is, I always said that if you are 25 yards to goal, if you aim it at the wall and you've got someone in the wall that's going to drag someone out of the wall, by the time the ball's gone past that wall, the goalkeeper's going to be unsighted. And I look at Rob Green and like, I don't think anybody could have criticised him about that. If he'd have saved that, I believe it would have been an unbelievable save, because he saw it right at the last minute.
Yeah.
So I'd got plenty of pace, and it was probably the pace that beat him. But I always say, you know, it's like over the years at different places, that's how I've scored like a lot of free kicks, is aim at the wall. People say, well, why do you want to aim at the wall? As long as you've got two of your players in there and they can shift other players around, all I'm doing is aiming for where my players are, because I know they're going to shift. And if it does get beyond the wall, one or two things are going to happen. The keeper's either going to make a save, it's probably going to spill off him and someone can put it in the back of the net, or it's going to deflect off the wall and could go anywhere. So it was really slow motion, but the first thing I did was look at the linesman, and the linesman started running back towards the halfway line, and then I knew the goal was given. So no, it was a fantastic feeling, you know, for me to be part of a team that got the team to Wembley after so long. It was great to be part of, and we held on as well. And for me, it was a brilliant team performance. And like I say, the lads then carried it on the rest of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about your injury and the effect it had on you. Like, how long does that take to get over, or just to be in a place where you kind of accept it?
Took me a while, if I'm being honest, and I've said it before. It's a horrible thing to say, and I said it at the time. I said it in my book. I wanted us to get beaten in the semi-final. It was awful, because I was unbelievably jealous. I didn't want the lads not to do well, but I was like, if we get through this, that means that I would have been missing the final as well. So it was really difficult for me to put a brave face on.
Yeah.
You know, it was really, really tough. I was delighted for the lads, but from a purely selfish point of view, I was like, if we get past the semi-final, and this was one of the main reasons, if we get past the semi-final, then I've got the final, and I've got to smile then, and I've got to turn up, and I've got to be great with the lads and everything, when in all reality, I wanted to be as far away as possible from Wembley. I wanted to be as far away as possible from the lads. That's nothing to do with lads, because I loved the lads. You know, they were like a big group of brothers to me. You know, and it wasn't that. It was just my jealousy, and I was just so jealous of and envious of the lads running out of Wembley. So it was really tough for me to take, and it was emotional at times as well, because as a kid, all you dreamed about doing was playing at Wembley, and then to have that taken away from you, it was tough. But you know, the lads were brilliant, you know, ringing me and things and all stuff like that constantly. So I was gutted, but just more like on a personal level for, you know, not being involved. But that was gone within. As soon as the summer come, that was gone. It was finished.
Yeah, of course. Like, had we won the final, like people would have still acknowledged your important goal in the quarter-final and stuff. Would that not have mattered to you?
No, not at all. Not at all. My final bit of Stoke in the FA Cup that season was the quarter-finals. Nothing to do with the semi-finals. Nothing to do with the final. You know, the club were good enough to give me a cup winners medal. I've had two over the years. I don't even know where it is.
Right.
It's in my house. I know I've got one, but I don't know where the other one is, because it just doesn't. That's not being disrespectful, but it doesn't mean anything to me, because I wasn't part of it. I wasn't part of the 11. I wasn't part of the 16 or whatever it was, or 18 at the time. I wasn't part of it, so therefore I have no right to be involved in it. It's not whereas you're it's not whereas if you're playing in the Premier League, and if you play, you know, 20, 25 games or whatever, but you miss the last 4 or 5, you've been part of that in terms of getting the points together and things like that. But for me, the semi-final and the final was no part of me whatsoever.
Do you sometimes see like a Premier League winning side get all the medals and stuff? You think he only played 2 games?
No, because the thing is, it's each to their own.
Yeah.
It's each to their own. You know, you look at different people. There'll be people that won't that might not play a part in FA Cup success, but will get a medal and they'll believe that they deserve it. Then there's nothing wrong with that. It's your own individual. For me, I believe that the 5-0 victory against Bolton was magnificent. It was nothing to do with me. The defeat against Manchester City, really unlucky. Had a couple of chances themselves. It was nothing to do with me. I had no say in the way that the team played. I had no say on the performance. So for me, I was nothing to do with it whatsoever. It was great that the team did so well and got to the final and really put Stoke on the map and got into Europe. But as in terms of anything after the quarter final, it was nothing to do with me at all. No.
Okay. Going back to the league then, like a kind of theme with Stoke in the early seasons, and with kind of Tony Pulis teams in general, the criticism that gets levelled at them is after you reach 40 points, there's kind of this drop off in form, in results. What happens there from a kind of dressing room point of view? Because I know that, like, you're obviously all very professional in what you do, and you won't want to switch off, but to an extent that does happen.
I can honestly say, I remember, I think it was the second season, we played Fulham away and won 1-0. And I think that then gave us more clean sheets than the previous season. I think that might have been the second to last game of the season, I think.
Etherington scored.
Yeah, and then we played Man United last game of the season and got battered. But no, we didn't, you know, for me, I never personally, I know the lads in the dressing room didn't look at 40 points and go, right, we're safe now. We didn't do that. It wasn't something that we wanted to do. It never crossed my mind over at 40 points now we're fine. And you know, that Fulham game, I remember going into that Fulham game and we were told, you know, I think we were level on clean sheets from the first year in the Premier League, and this one we got that because we got a hell of a lot of clean sheets in the first season. Then the second season, like I say, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that one against Fulham took us to beat the first season, so therefore we did have something to play for. So people can say what they want from the outside, but I can honestly say in that dressing room at Stoke, there was never a point where we went, we've got 40 points, we can't be bothered now. Players have pride to play for. I remember one of the last games of the season, we got battered at Chelsea. We were embarrassed. We were unbelievably embarrassed. There was no laughing and joking. There was arguing in the dressing rooms afterwards. I think we'd already got 40 points. We were flipping, you know, a lot of lads were near enough coming to blows in the dressing room. Now, if you want to know how bothered people were after 40 points, all you needed to do is probably have a camera in that dressing room afterwards to realise that we were embarrassed as a team because we got absolutely destroyed. We had 40 points. We were comfortable, you know, and then I think that we wanted to put it right. And one of the ways of putting it right was, I think we might actually have had a game against Everton the following week in that game. I think we had a 0-0 with Everton, and then that might have been the season then when we then drew or beat Fulham 1-0. But yeah, from my point of view, there was no resting on laurels, and the dressing rooms that I was part of under Tony, we never felt that ever.
Speaking of coming to blows in the dressing room, are you allowed to tell us what happened with Tony Pulis and James Beattie at the Emirates?
What's been said?
Was there a headbutt?
I couldn't possibly say. No, I wouldn't. I'd rather not.
That's fine.
Talk about that one. Yeah, I'll leave other people to do that.
What happens in the dressing room stays in the dressing room.
Yeah, unless it's something that's funny, unless it's something that's not, you know, not going to cause issues and things like that. Then yeah, I think it's all right. It was just say it was something that you don't see that often. And leave it at that.
Okay, moving on swiftly. You're a product of Man United, of course. What was it about Man United, particularly in the 90s, that made them produce this just vast wealth of talent just throughout the whole decade, really?
People have asked me loads of times before. You know, I chose to leave United. I just signed a 4-year contract, and I chose to leave at 21 because, you know, I'd had a club had come in and had offered good money to United. It was a chance to stay in the Premier League, and while I was there was probably a lot of lads that, and you could probably ask them the same thing, and they'd probably tell you can now stay welcome at a club like Manchester United because it's such a fantastic football club. And then when you leave, people ask you, what did you learn, you know, about the football wise and things like that. For me, the biggest thing I got from Manchester United was how I had to conduct myself as a man, as a human being and things like that. And what I learned the most thing is that I was so fortunate to grow up at a time and actually spend a couple of years training with, in my mind, probably close to the ultimate United team in my time. The likes of Cantona, Scholes, Keane, the Nevilles, Giggs, Beckham, Cole, York, Schmeichel, Stam. The list just goes on and on. The list goes on and on and on. So for me, to have the beauty of training with them players day in, day out, realising that they would train how they played. They would they'd kick each other in training, not a problem. They knew when they were out on a Saturday, the games on the Saturday were probably easier for them than during the week. So that was something that I took from it. Don't get me wrong, you improve when you're playing around good players and things like that, but the biggest thing for me was that I'm the first to admit that I was fortunate enough to play in the Premier League for the majority of my career, but that wasn't to do with purely technical ability. You know, I like to think that a lot of it was to do with my desire, my determination and my commitment, and a lot of that was gained from growing up at Manchester United, being around these players, and if it was good enough for them, then it was going to be good enough for me. When we were apprentices, we used to get, I think, a Wednesday afternoon off every 2 or 3 weeks. That was it. And Gary Neville and Phil Neville, you could guarantee we'd finished training. Gary Neville was now an established England international and obviously established at Manchester United. Phil Neville was now in the United's first team. They'd come and knock on our door, the apprentices' door, and say, right, we're going up to do heading practice. And at first it was annoying, then you realise, well, hang on a second, these two are established players now in the Premier League at one of the greatest clubs in the world, one of the best teams in the world at the time, yet they're still wanting to do this. So for me, it was, yes, you learn a lot football-wise, but for me it was how to conduct yourself through your career and the determination and desire that you've got to have. That was the biggest thing that I learned from that club.
You had a loan spell at Royal Antwerp, and obviously Man United got a connection with Royal Antwerp. How valuable, in terms of just being a young player, how valuable are these loan spells? Do you learn a lot from them?
Massively. For me, I went away a boy and I came back a man. You know, I went to a foreign country on my own. For the first 3 or 4 months, nobody spoke English. It was, you know, they spoke Flemish, which I think was German, Dutch and French, all together in one, and it was really difficult. I had to stand on my own 2 feet at a club where everybody had their own football. You had to wash your own ball. The fans were unbelievably passionate, and I learnt a lot of life lessons very quickly. For me, I would. Under 23s for me is, if you play more than 20, 25 games under 23s, you've got to get out. You've either got to get on loan or you've got to go and move to another club, because there's only so much you can learn. If you go on loan in this country, you go to a lower league, you start to realise and appreciate that it is all about winning. It's not about, oh well, you played well. It means a lot more now, because you've got lads that are playing for the mortgages, you've got lads that are playing for win bonuses, and it means a lot for them. It's their job, and you're playing against men. For me, if you are not, like I say, if you've played a certain amount of games in under 23s, you're not playing in your first team, get yourself out on loan. I would highly recommend it. It's massive, and the experience that you have, listen, the football experience might not be great at times, you might not have the best of spells, but what you learn as growing up is absolutely massive. And you know, for me, you look at a lot of people, a lot of the top players over the years went on loan. People forget they went on loan before they made their mark at the football. We look at Harry Kane, you know, one in particular, now David Beckham. He was another one, you know, Jermaine Defoe. So it's a massive thing, and for me, it's something that should be used more and more.
Jumping ahead then to the end of your career, who first came up with the idea of playing for Gibraltar?
It was my uncle, because he was manager at the time. So basically, what happened? There'd been a few phone calls earlier on in my career, but they weren't. They were not part of UEFA at the time, so therefore they weren't getting the funding. So for them to fly me over there and put me up and play in a game, it made no sense whatsoever. Then when they got accepted, you know, I had a phone call, I think it was 34, I think I was, and played my last one at 35. And for me, at that point in my career, I'd gone to part-time football. I'd had enough of full-time football. I was enjoying what I was doing off the field in terms of the media side of things. And it was something that I couldn't turn down. It was a fantastic experience for me to play my first game. I think it was against Slovakia, the first game where they were recognised as a proper nation. Everybody was saying you're going to get beat 7-8, 9-0, and I think everyone was a little bit nervous. And to draw 0-0, you know, it was brilliant. And there was a lot of tears afterwards, a lot of emotions, but I didn't understand. But it's something that they've been working on for so long to get recognition. They'd finally got that, and you know, and I promised them that I'd play the 2 more games even though I'd retired. And then people were saying to me, well, we want you to be part of the Euro qualification. It would have been a great experience, but for me it would have meant I would have had to keep playing on a Saturday, and that was no good for me because I didn't want to play football anymore. I'd had enough, and it wouldn't have been fair on my family, because I would have been doing something at a weekend that I didn't want to do just to be able to go and play. And going to a club, a non-league club, whatever, and there, you know, you're playing for them, you're representing them, and my heart wouldn't have been in it. So it wasn't right for me to do that. So, you know, it's something that I have no regrets about turning it down, because I always believe you've got to be true to yourself, and if I had have done that, I wouldn't have been doing it for the right reasons.
So moving on into sort of your career after playing then, it seems to me, this might not be true, but it seems to me like a lot of players choose the punditry route perhaps more so than take the coaching route. Is there a reason why that is?
I don't know. It's for me. I took up the role that I do now, and I do consider it my career now because I enjoyed it. And I always believe that, like, listen, apart from horrendous things that happen in life, like deaths and major illnesses and things like that, to a certain extent, and that's why I don't cover it all, but to a certain extent, I believe that everything in life happens for a reason. And I always believe that, like I say, not major things, but certain things. And when I did my cruise shirt, it's when I really questioned it, because I'd say to my wife and things like that, and my close friends, that's my theory gone now. Everything happened for a reason. This has happened, but why? Why has it happened? And it was only about that time that, because Stoke were in the limelight, because they got semi-final and the final of the FA Cup, television stations, radio companies wanted me to come on and do shows with them, because little old Stoke, were in the FA Cup semi-final and the final. And I didn't realise it then, and it wasn't until probably about a year or two after that, when you were still doing bits for these same companies, that was the beginning of it. So that was how I tried to get, into reasoning why the injury that I got happened. But I genuinely love it. It wasn't a case of, what am I going to do next after I finish playing football? Oh, this looks good. It was something that I had a real passion for, and I was passionate about it as what I was for playing football. I don't miss playing. I don't miss playing a minute of football. I was very, very fortunate for 20 years to do something that I loved, and I could never call it a job, but that's what it was. And I walked away from the game, delighted that I've been able to have that career. But then at that point, you've got to go, right, okay, what am I going to do next? And I think that the tough thing is for a lot of lads that play football is, what are you going to do next? You're in a career, you're in a bubble, especially when you play at the highest level where everything's done for you. Financially, you get paid very, very well, and then all of a sudden, when you're cut off from that, all of a sudden you can be yesterday's news. Yeah. And that's how it is. That's part and parcel of life. And I think sometimes lads probably struggle a little bit to accept that, and that's understandable. But it's, people have asked me, that are now starting to get into their 30s and things like that, what do you suggest for me in my career and things like that? And I always say, listen, if you can, do not retire from playing football until you know what you can do next. Even if it means you go and play non-league, no matter what level it is, don't retire, because otherwise you will just be lost. You won't know what to do yourself. Have that transitional period if you can, where you're still playing football, but you're getting to the point where you want to do next. And that's what happened with myself. I managed to work it so that when I did retire from football, it was then because football was actually getting in the way of what I wanted to do next. And whatever you're going to do next, throw yourself into it. And if you do well, then obviously you're going to progress in it. It's the same with anything.
Has analysing football made you appreciate pundits more? Were there times as a player you thought, well, this pundit doesn't know what they're talking about?
No, I never. I was never one to be like that. I was never critical of pundits and things like that, because in my opinion, a pundit, a commentator, whatever you want to call it, a journalist, they have the right to say what they're going to say, in their opinion. And it's a simple fact. Now, what I try and do now when I'm doing my thing is that, would I say anything that, if I was playing and I did decide to listen to someone saying something, could I accept that? Because I believe that I could accept criticism, no problem. Could I accept that? And if I could, then it's fine. There's constructive criticism. There's, you might have criticism of a team and things like that, but I try and stay away personally, I try and stay away from the individual side of things, and try and focus on the positive. If there is a negative in there, put the negative, but surround it with positives, because I think it's important, because you've got to try and be balanced. But people will say there's no right and wrong way of being a pundit. Whatever you want to do, there's different aspects of it, completely different in it, and it is each to their own. And one person's opinion is going to be completely different than the others, because of how they see things, or a lot of the times the position that they play on the pitch.
I'm not saying this is my opinion, but there is a perception that there's some pundits get the big gigs because they were great players, rather than they're really insightful or whatever. Do you think that sometimes, pundits who just didn't have the top careers get overlooked?
I think it's changing. I do believe that it's changing now. I think over the last few years we've started to see a change in it. don't get me wrong, if you've been a top player, you won World Cups, you won, European trophies, whatever it is, you will get the opportunity. There's no doubt about it, because, and in front of the camera.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, because you are, someone turns the TV on and it's, wow, look who's on the TV, he's won this, he's won that, he's won this. So you are going to get that opportunity, and rightly so, but then it's up to you to prove that you're good enough. But I think things are changing now. I think that, I like to believe that if you are good enough, you will get the opportunity. I've been fortunate enough at Sky. I've grown with them. I got a Premier League game. I like Premier League games towards the end of the season. And I've been doing more things for them, and I think the audience is probably of the mind now where it always used to be. Oh, what's he won in the game? What's he done in the game? What's he won? Why? I think now it's going more across the other way, where a lot of people, because I think there's more people that want to learn about football now than ever, and I think as long as they're listening to a voice probably that they believe can maybe teach them something, it doesn't necessarily matter as much whether they've done this or they've done that. Don't get me wrong, it should matter at first, especially because that's when you're going to get given your opportunity. But like for someone like myself that didn't win all them trophies and things like that, I know that I have to work hard, because I'm not a face that someone will put in front of the camera. People can go, oh yeah, look, he won all this and he won all that, and I'm very comfortable with that. But I'm fortunate as well that for me, listen, studio work is great, but I love to do the commentary. I love to do the commentary, to look at the patterns of play and to see why one team's dominating the other and things like that. So I'm fortunate in that point of view, because that's my favourite thing to do.
Do you ever, like, your whole career has been in football, like even moving on to after playing, you're talking about football, you're covering various competitions. I think I've even heard you do a Stoke youth game.
I did that for ITV. Yeah.
Do you ever need to detox from football completely?
Yeah, you have to. When I was playing football, because when you're playing football, when you're a player, you're physically knackered. And I remember all my friends, whether they be in different types of business, the ones that didn't play football, they always used to come up to me and go, I'm mentally knackered. I was like, you want to try being physically tired? That's the worst of the lot. I couldn't have been further from the truth. Mental tiredness is on another level, because if you're mentally tired, you feel physically tired. Physically tired sometimes feels nice. So for me, I've finished now and I've got a few weeks to myself, so I'll go and have a holiday with my family. But for me, when you're doing a game, whatever you may be doing, like I say, for me it's mainly commentating, because I love doing that, and I've been fortunate enough to get the opportunity to do that. The prep is as important as actually doing the game. And I'll try and from doing a game, I'll try and speak to both managers. I was fortunate enough, I was doing the Confederations Cup for ITV, and I managed to get Anthony Hudson's number. Right. Obviously, Alan Hudson's son, Stoke City, great. I managed to get his number, and I spoke to him before the game, and it was brilliant, because it's them bringing insight, and you owe it to whatever team you're doing, whether it be League Two or whether it be a team at the top of the Premier League. You owe it to anybody that's listening to treat every single game the same. And that's what I like to do. But yeah, you do get to a point where you are mentally knackered, and you need to just have that break where you just step away from it and go, right, okay, I need to have this break now, because games just end up sinking into one. And so you do, like in anything, you need that little bit of a break, and then you come back refreshed. But for me, after football, it's the second best thing that I could be doing, and I love every minute of it, and I'm appreciative of everything that I do with it, and fortunate with the top class people that I'm able to work with week in, week out.
Looking at Stoke as they are today, then I know sometimes you can get into disagreements with fans on Twitter and stuff. Do you get the sense that some fans expect too much of Stoke?
It's a problem that any promoted club that goes on to establish himself in the Premier League, you're always going to have it. It's not just Stoke City, it's every team in the Premier League. We've seen it happen time and time again. I believe, and I've said it openly before, Stoke City are now an established football club. Tony Pulis got it up to a certain level. He left, Mark Hughes came in, took it up to another level. Okay, they've had a poor season this season, but they'd had consecutive 9 finishes. The problem that you then have is that, don't get me wrong, you will get a season every now and then where you will get a team that you wouldn't expect maybe finish 6th or 7th. Now, Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Everton. There's 7 teams already. So realistically, when I look at it, I think to myself, it's 8th. Unless you have a freak season, The only possible team, I believe, out of them top 7 that I've just mentioned that you could possibly get above is Everton. And look what Everton are doing now. They've got a centre forward now that they could potentially sell for onwards of £70 million. So expectation have to be put in order, because people say, well, for Britannia, yeah, we finished 9th, we want to finish 8th, we want to finish 7th. Do you honestly think that you're going to break into that group with Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham? I don't see it. Because I would say, in order to do that, as a football club that are finishing 8th and 9th, you've got to go out and spend upwards of £150 million. But what you've got to forget is that while you're doing that to try and catch up with them teams are spending that year after year. So the problem is when you are, and I remember seeing it at Stoke, when we first came to the Premier League, it was like, right, anything above 17th is fantastic for us in the first season. I think we finished 12th in the first season. I believe Tony at the time was a victim of his own success, doing too much too quickly. You know, within 3 years of being in the Premier League, I think it was, finishing 11th, 12th, whatever it was, an FA Cup final, getting into Europe, you know, and other teams are going to have this problem now. It always happens, and I understand supporters, but there is, unless you're going to go out and spend ridiculous amounts of money, there is a ceiling. And unfortunately, your top 7 teams, like I say, apart from there maybe being a freak season where a Southampton might get in there, or a Leicester, what we saw last year, we won't see anything like that now for another 40 years, where a team that they were disrespected. It was football snobbery why they won the Premier League. Everyone said, oh, it's just Leicester, we'll do what we want to do. That won't be seen again for another 40, 50 years. So therefore there has to be expectation levels. The problem is when you reach the roof, or the ceiling, how do you get past that? And the question, and the answer is, I think it's near enough impossible to get beyond that.
I think one of the debates that the fan base has had as well is the question of like the style of play. Hughes was appointed to kind of not only improve us in terms of league position, but kind of bring this kind of new way of playing in. And there was a sense last season that we weren't as exciting, playing as attractive football as we had done.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
I did a few games at Stoke this season, and yeah, probably, yeah, you might say it's not as exciting, but at the end of the day, for me, it's one season. All right, people say, well, it's not been a great season. Okay, it's not been a great season, but previous to that, how many ninth finished? Was it 3 in a row?
3 in a row, yeah.
You finished 9th. For me, okay, people may say, oh yeah, well look who finished above us, look who finished above us. Now what I would say is, you know, hopefully Stoke will go out and spend in the transfer window. I think Darren Fletcher, I think it's an unbelievable signing. I think it's an absolutely outstanding signing. And hopefully there'll be a few more to go on with that, and they can kick on. The problem is, right, and everybody talks about it, is that I had the same problem really when I was there. We weren't massive goal scorers. Now to get Stoke, we talk about the next level, to get Stoke to that next level, you want to go and get an out and out goal scorer. Talking £25 million. That's an unbelievable sum of money. You know, when you look at how much a proven centre forward goal scorer, you know, unless you're fortunate enough to get one on a free, they don't come cheap, or they may be coming towards the end of the career. They don't come cheap. It's as simple as that. So, and you know, listen, I'm not saying that the club won't go and spend that on a player, and let's not forget, you know, they have spent some money, so they're willing to spend money. You know, and hopefully, like I say, you know, they can go and strengthen in key areas this summer and have a strong season next year. But it is difficult because you do get to that ceiling, and what happens is when you get to that ceiling, you can't get above that 8th or 9th. Sometimes you may drop back a little bit, but then you try and kick on again. I think Stoke's thing, and I'm sure Mark Hughes would say the same thing, is that try and have a good start to the season, because if they could start well, they probably could finish 8th or something like that, because you know they have that bit in between the season where they just fly up the league.
An issue that also gets talked about is like young players breaking into the first 11. It seems to be becoming harder and harder for academy players to break into a Premier League side. Like how would, if you're 19 years old and you're sort of on the fringes at Stoke, say, what do you need to do? Well, aside from obviously have the talent.
Yeah, obviously have the talent. And what you've got to do, I think you've got to understand, are you in the manager's plans? Full stop. are you not in the manager's plans at the moment, but could well be in the future? And then you've got to see where you are, and then look to go out on loan. The one thing is that the England under 21s, there's a few players in that team that are playing week in week out in the Premier League. The problem is, right, and I stand by it until someone can prove me wrong. There's been a thing which it's been said over the years, well, foreign managers coming in and foreign players coming in, not good enough and not as good as the English players that are growing up. The one thing I would say is that if you take your top 6, I think Everton have shown that they will bring youngsters through and things like that, and they're shown to be good enough. But if you look at the top 6 clubs this season, and over the last 5 years, players that are deemed probably not quite good enough to play for the top 6 teams and are released at 19-23, their contract expires and they're released. How many of them go and get a Premier League club at the age of 19-20? How many go and get a club in the Premier League?
Don't know. Are you going to tell me?
I don't know of any. So maybe if you look over the last 5 or 6 years, there may be 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say 5. So therefore, if a player leaves a top club, a team that are in the top 6 leaves a top club, why is none of the so-called lesser teams in the Premier League going to get them? They're free, their wages won't be astronomical, and they've grown up in the Premier League. So surely it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Go and give them 2 years, but they're not saying it's good enough. Instead, we're going and spending a lot of money on Championship players and League One players that are coming into the Premier League and taking it by storm. You only have to look at Dele Alli, one of the main lads. Jamie Vardy, he came from the Championship. The list goes on. You got Charlie Austin. The list would go on and on and on. So for me, rather than ask the question of why are our young Premier League players not getting an opportunity, the question I would add to that is why, if we look at the ultimate teams in the Premier League, your top 6 teams in the Premier League, why when players are getting released from them at the age of 19, 20, they're bringing in the Premier League, why is no other lesser Premier League team picking them up? Because they were free. Yeah. Not going to be big expenditure, like I say, growing up in the Premier League. I'm not talking about your Cleverleys, your Welbecks, your Ackies that have had experience and are being bought for money. I'm about lads that have been released. Yeah. Why don't anybody gamble on them? My own honest opinion would be Premier League managers, even near the bottom end of the Premier League, don't believe that they're good enough.
Going back to Stoke then, from what you've seen of us recently, how do we get back to defending better? Because there have been a lot of 4-goal losses.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big criticisms as well, is that we're just not as resilient at the back.
I think one of the things is that there's not been, I think at times, and through no fault of Mark Hughes, it's not been a settled back 5. And that is, believe me, it's a huge thing. The best defensive that I've been involved in has been a settled back 4, because if I'm playing left back or centre back, I know my centre back's weakness, I know his strength, he knows my weakness, he knows my strength, I know if he's going to win a ball, I know if he's going to lose the ball. Goalkeepers, it's having that settled back 5 for me is a big thing. And don't get me wrong, I think Stoke at times can play open. Sometimes when you are playing that attractive football, you can be open, you can be expansive. I think the worrying thing from Stoke's point of view, and they'll want to put a stop to it, is that when they did concede 2, a lot of the times it would end up 3 or 4. And that just comes down to communication and organisation, I guess, within the team. But I think Mark Hughes, the one thing he would long for is a settled back 5. Yeah. Because the teams that have that continuity are the ones that seem to be stronger. You've got to remember, I thought Lee Grant coming, he got Player of the Year. I thought he was absolutely immense. Then Butland came in, who for me, I think he'll be England's number 1 in a certain amount of time. He's got all the attributes. He's an outstanding goalkeeper. Seems to carry himself really well. He's going to go on and going to be a fantastic goalkeeper. So if you can have him in goal and then you have a settled back 4, that's the key to it. But like I say, I'd love to know how many times Stoke were able to play same back 5 last season, and I think it wouldn't have been as many as probably what people think. Get stability and then hopefully that comes.
We also had the situation where we go from a back 4 to a back 3 game to game.
That can be difficult, but there will be a reason behind why Mark Hughes was doing it. That could be down to injuries. Sometimes teams are forced to go to a back 3 because of injuries, because they might not have natural full-backs that are available to play, so therefore you play with near enough wingers at times. So I say hopefully, you know, that's something that will be addressed, and have a little bit more lookers in terms of the injury, and they can have that settled back five.
Yeah. You're a big exponent of 4-4-2 as a system. Why do you think it is that it seems to be kind of looked down on, perhaps not as highly regarded as it once was?
Because I think people look at it as a system of people look at it as a system of dinosaurs, which in my opinion is ridiculous. Listen, you only have to look at last season. You look at this year, Monaco. And Monaco, they did really well in the Champions League, played a 4-4-2. Atletico, season before, played 4-4-2, nearly won the Champions League. Leicester, season before, played 4-4-2, won the Premier League. So I think there's two things really. I think there's very few out-and-out wingers now, so I think it becomes more difficult. And what you have to do if you're going to play 4-4-2, one of your strikers has to be very, very unselfish, because they've got to make that fifth man in midfield, pick up the defensive midfielder. But for me, it's brilliant. It enables you to get 2v1s. It enables you to play with two centre forwards. But I just think that we are, to a certain extent, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think there's a lot of snobbery in football, and 4-4-2 is seen as old school, and old school's not good enough. So for me, I'm the biggest advocate for 4-4-2, and I stand by it against any system if it's played correctly. We're seeing a lot of times now teams playing with a back three, and it is each to their own. But for me, like I say, if it's played correctly and you have the right players in that, 4-4-2 for me is the best system.
Video refs?
Oh no, don't get me into that.
No,
I'm fine. But we could be here for half an hour. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Right. The VAR, I think it's absolutely shocking. I've made my feelings known on ITV and my column in the newspaper, on Twitter. It's people talk about VAR now. For me, you have where we are at the moment. I'll tell you, but where we are at the moment is one place. Where VAR is another place. But in between, there's about another 3 stages you've got to go through. VAR is only any good if it's factual. If it's open to interpretation, if it's opinion, you cannot have VAR. Because if you and me, right, you're refereeing the game, and I'm in the truck with 3 other people. What happens if you have an opinion on something that is subjective? If it's subjective, you're wasting your time. So therefore, you could have a different opinion than me in the truck, and another lad in the truck, and another lad in the truck. VAR is only good, in my opinion, for mistaken identity, goal line technology, which we've already got, and off-the-ball incidents.
Yeah.
So if you're going to bring it in, probably bringing it in for 2 things. Simplify the rules for referees. I've just done the Confederations Cup for ITV. It was embarrassing, VAR. Absolutely embarrassing. It was just to the point of watching the final, and Chile had a player that got a yellow card. The referee went to VAR, and I thought to myself, wow, I'm going to have to go on. Someone's going to come to me and say, right, what do you think about that? Now then, I'm going to have to go on and say, listen, hold my hands up, VAR's coming in, has worked really well here. Unbelievable. It was an elbow in the face, Chile player on a Germany player, and I'm thinking to myself, it's going to work now. Puts his video evidence thing up. That obviously means, if that happens, I think that means the people in the truck believe that it's a red card offence. Referee runs over, takes forever, runs over, looks at the television screen. I thought, okay, at least he's going to come up with the right decision. He gave me a yellow card, and I'm thinking to myself, please tell me the people that are doing this VAR must have told me. He's actually looked at the video evidence and he's still seen it as a yellow card. So imagine, I'll give you an instance now. So imagine that happens in the Premier League, right? Same situation happens. Referee then goes and looks at his video screen, comes out, gives a player a yellow card. That player gets a yellow card. Nothing can happen. Referee hasn't seen it. That player can get retrospective action if he's not been booked. Now all of a sudden this lad getting a yellow card, he must have thought 100% he was getting a red card. He gets a yellow card, and if that's in the Premier League, it's like, oh, happy days, got a yellow card, not going to get retrospective action. It's a farce at the moment. You can't use it for offside because it's too much open to interpretation. What's a linesman going to do? You're going to get to the point where a linesman's going to be so fearful of putting his flag up that he's going to leave his flag down just in case it was offside. Because at the moment, if a linesman putting his flag up, he knows that it could go to VAR. If he puts his flag up, referee blows a whistle to stop the game, you can't go to VAR. What are you going to do? You're going to say to the player, find yourself in this position again. Yeah. Just end up comical. You can't use it for. Trying to think what else. You can't use it for offside. That's the biggest thing for me. Penalties, it's a difficult one as well, because penalties once again are open to interpretation. Handballs are open to interpretation. The problem that you're going to get if and when it comes into the Premier League is that you're going to have, say for example, you've got Stoke City versus Liverpool one week. A referee goes to VAR, a decision is made, player's given a red card. The next week, Manchester United v Leicester. The referee goes to VAR, very similar foul, a yellow card's given. It's going to create uproar. So if you're going to use it, you can only use it on factual evidence. So you can use it for mistaken identity, goal line, which we've already got, and off the ball incidents. The rest, no. I think it's been absolutely shocking from what I've seen so far.
I think even on a just purely watching football perspective, like Stoke score a goal in the last minute, go up cheer like, oh, we've got to wait 20 seconds.
The passion goes.
Yeah.
The passion of the game goes. And for the viewer, you have nothing's going on. The only time you know whether a goal's been given or not is if maybe they put the letters up on the screen, but it takes a whole of the passion out of the game. You think about last minute goals being scored. You know, I know it's a while back, but Martin Tyler, Aguero against QPR. All right, I know it was fine. It was a goal that was always going to be given. But imagine something had happened in the build-up and the referee went, I've got to do the square, we go to the VAR. And Martin Tyler's like, okay, we've just got to wait to see if Manchester City have just scored a goal that's won them the Premier League. And so, oh yes, they've won the Premier League, well done. I'm just like, football is a very passionate sport. And for me, goal line technology is where it should end. That's what separates football from so many other sports, the debate. People say, oh, well, yeah, well, clubs are losing millions and millions of pounds and things like that. Okay, we'll simplify the rules, because there's too many rules open to interpretation. If you do that, I guarantee there won't be such a need for VAR.
Okay, finally then, your fondest memories from being a Stoke player?
Fondest memories, there is so many. Being part of that group was immense. Walking out every Saturday. I used to go home on Friday after training, especially when we were playing at home. I was like a kid waiting for Christmas Day. Could not wait for the next day. Go out for the warm up, and then being in the tunnel. And then you hear the music and walking out. My hair stood on end for 2.5, 3 years. No doubt about it. So it was being part of that. It was being part of a club that club at the time, still to a certain extent, it mirrored me and so many of the lads that played for the club. And that's why when you go back, just over a year ago, Andy Wilkinson's testimonial, you know, people are expecting 10, 11,000, and there was near enough 20,000 people there, because they're players from that era. They went hand in hand with the supporters, and I think the supporters had a real connection with them players, so that was a big thing for me. I think team wise, I think you look at Liverpool away when we drew 0-0.
Yeah.
Stephen Gerrard had a goal disallowed after about 5 minutes. I think if that had been given, it could have been 10-0. Players, I can't remember whether it was Courty or Sonko that had to go off. They got a concussion because they got a ball in the face.
Leon Court, yeah, he just got.
He didn't even know what day it was. That's from the performance of 0-0. It could have been, like I say, it could have been 10-0. The shots on target was a joke, and shots blocked. Them games, Arsenal obviously at home, the FA Cup run. Just being, for me, the biggest thing that I look at Stoke City is that my very first game for Stoke City in the league was against Southend. Luke Chadwick had to go.
Yeah.
He got stretchered. He collapsed. He spent the night in hospital and turned up on the Monday, and he played on the Tuesday. And I think Tony said to him, "Listen, if you play on a Tuesday, you can have Wednesday, Thursday off," and cut his head open on Tuesday against Derby. So that was my first game, and my last game was against. It was in the Europa League, and it was against. This sums up my career at Stoke and growing with them. First game, Southend away. Last game, Besiktas away. And that for me, you know, it's for me to be part of such a special club, to grow with that club. That was the biggest thing. So yes, there was a lot of individual memories and things like that, but there was too many. The people behind the scenes, you know, I love Winnie and John, the kit man and the kit lady, and it was just an unbelievable team to be part of, an unbelievable part of my career that I'm so grateful for, and the gratitude I have for being part of that club was unbelievable, because that comes around once in everyone's career, if you're that lucky, where you have a group of players, a football club where, you know, you mirror that football club. So for me, like I say, the biggest thing I can say is Southend away.